Fire Emblem Engage has been out for a little over a day now, and I've been playing as much of it as possible since I got my hands on it. I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan, playing all but a couple of the Japanese-only releases, and I've been excited to play Engage since it was revealed last September. I'm about 10 hours in, and I want to give some initial impressions out since it'll be a while before I can give a full review on it. I won't be talking any big story beats that haven't been shown in trailers, but I will be talking some specifics from gameplay side, but I wouldn't really consider that to be spoilery, so to speak. Hopefully this video will keep you engaged. I'm sorry, but I had to get at least one. Feel free to click away. Something I pointed out in a previous video about Engage is I was very excited to see a much brighter, more colorful world in this game in comparison to the more dull, comparatively washed out looking 3 houses. So far, Engage has been a delight in this department. Each map has felt unique so far in setting and color, and the battle animations are much more fun, flashy, and over the top this go around. Speaking of over the top, a lot of the character designs are, for better or worse, very distinct. For some characters, this works and helps add some flair, but some designs come off just a tad too busy for my taste. That is something I felt in many aspects of this game though, that I'll allude to later in this video, but this game has a lot going on. They really went for that goofy fantasy route and did not look back, but overall I'm enjoying it so far. The music so far has been pretty good as expected, but I've yet to hear something that is an obvious classic like many Fire Emblem games end up having. Now there's plenty of game left, so I'm not super worried about this, but one song I have enjoyed is the enemy phase battle music. It doesn't really blow my socks off by any means, but it's undeniably a bop. Now the gameplay of Engage has been very enjoyable for me so far, and it's probably what I have the most to say about. For reference, I've been playing the game on Maddening Classic, so there may be some slight differences to how things may feel on other difficulties that I'm not familiar with. First up, the break mechanic. I was a little apprehensive on this mechanic when it was first revealed, but I'm happy to say those worries were unnecessary because I really think they nailed it from what I've played. Enemy placements have been well thought out to where if you want to go break an axe enemy for example, there's probably a lance enemy in range to break you on the other phase. I feel like I've been playing more aggressively too overall, which is nice because the tried and true turtling ball of death method is typically a safe way to play, and while it still is, the new break mechanic has helped motivate me to be more on the offensive. One good counter for the break status for both you and the enemy is Armor Knights. Normally, I couldn't be bothered to try to fit an Armor Knight on my team if I was trying to play optimally, but I found good use in the early game Armor Knight in this game since he just has resistance to break built in as a latent skill. This unbreakable ability is baked into Armor Knights as part of the new subclass system in this game, and I think it's really good for balancing out the different class options. So basically, there are several umbrellas a unit will fall under, and each umbrella comes with some unique aspect that helps those classes stand out on your team. Like I mentioned, Armor Knights cannot be broken, which gives them some really important tanking capabilities, while the backup subclass that holds axe fighters, for example, can perform chain attacks to get some extra damage when you need it. What I think is really smart here is flying units and cavalry units don't have any new special characteristics. They just have the ability to fly over terrain in the case of flying units, and have high movement in the cavalry case, like they've always had. In the past games, these units always had a leg up, or 4 legs up, on their peers because regular infantry units did not get anything special really other than not having weaknesses to certain weapons. This new structure has really helped me find use for any new character that's been thrown my way, which is not something I can say for all new characters in previous games. Another big new mechanic is the emblem rings themselves, which grant stat boosts and special abilities and attacks. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I think it's pretty well balanced so far. Yeah, the special attacks can be super strong, but you can only use them once per engage cycle, and then you have to wait to re-engage to use them again. So you still have to be smart about how you use them. While engaged, you get some other special skills and attack options that definitely help you out for the entire 3-turn window, but I think all these perks are necessary because this game does not pull any punches against you either. You will need to smartly use these emblem rings to take down some dangerous enemies and sections of the maps. I think the biggest downside to this mechanic, at least in the early game, is the characters with emblem rings tend to be a lot stronger than the characters with bond rings or no rings at all. That can lead to some characters snowballing while some get left behind if you're not careful. Speaking of snowballing, my Aleer is starting to turn into an animal. It's becoming more and more common for the main protagonist to be really strong in recent games, and my experience in Engage has kept this trend going so far. Now, slight disclaimer, I've been giving some favoritism with experience and stat boosting items, but even still, I feel like the Aleer Marth combo is very strong. Aleer being very strong has been pivotal in my success though, especially against some of the bosses I've encountered so far. From what I've played, bosses have been doing a whole lot of damage and are not super easy to kill, outside of using engage attacks that is. I really like the extra health bar that bosses have, which makes them just a little harder than to just cheese through with real quick with a couple strong attacks. I hope this continues. Hell, give them another health bar. I ain't scared. The maps have all been fun so far, and they all have some unique aspects to them. I've played maybe 8 or 9 maps if you include optional paralogs. I've also had fun with the new post-map exploration, even though it's really just a vehicle to talk to some characters and get some extra dialogue and materials. One thing I hope to see down the road is more diverse map objectives though. So far it's just been route and kill boss, which is a trend the series has taken that I'm not really a fan of. One aspect this game has kept from Three Houses is the explorable hub area, this time being the floating sky base, the Somniel. Pretty standard stuff here: shops, character conversations, material collection, and so on. There are a handful of minigames I don't have super strong opinions on quite yet, but cool, no problem, those being there I guess. I've enjoyed that the Somniel has kind of taken a backseat to the traditional gameplay this time around. If you skip the Somniel, you would be a little worse off, but it's not nearly as important as the monastery was in Three Houses. It has helped keep the pacing at a higher clip, which I appreciate. The last thing I want to briefly touch on is the rewind mechanic and its return in this game. Rewind has been the last couple games, and it's a somewhat divisive topic to the Fire Emblem community, but I just feel like sharing that I am a pro rewind feature person. I feel like more often than not, it's just a quality of life feature preventing me from having to replay an entire map from one bonehead mistake, and rarely do I ever use more than a couple charges. But I will say, in the rare occasion I do get myself in a real pickle and have to dig out using several terminal uses, it's a very cathartic experience for me. It's almost like solving a really intricate puzzle and helps me experiment with a lot of unique strategies and find a viable solution. So yeah, in my opinion, the turn wheel is good for the series. It can also help the game feel less daunting for new players. So going into Engage, I had what I think was a pretty common expectation for this story, and that is that I felt like it did not look like it was going to be the strong point of the game. Now, I can't speak to the entire story obviously, but from what I've seen, it's about what I expected, a pretty corny hero's journey setup. It starts with an amnesiac protagonist who's been sleeping for 1,000 years. And real quick, why does it always have to be like 100 or 1,000 years anyway? Why can't I have been asleep for 537 years? What about 42 and a half? Anyhow, after waking up, you're all tasked with gathering powerful rings that give the wielder power. Then you go about the realm meeting new friends on your way to, assumedly, defeat the evil bad man who looks to stop you / achieve his own goals. Now, I don't have to have a fantastic story for every Fire Emblem, it's not the main thing I'm here for, but I will say this story has been particularly silly, almost to a point where I'm finding it humorous, especially when it comes to how all your allies treat the protagonist. Recent Fire Emblem games have been getting more and more into what a lot of people call avatar worship, where everyone wants to be your best friend. But this time, it's even more in your face because you are literally their deity, and they remind you of that every 15 seconds. Maybe this is a self-aware addition to the story, but who knows. So yeah, my experience with the story so far is that it's overly goofy, and sometimes that makes for some funny moments, whether intended or not. And don't get me wrong, a game does not have to have a serious story to be a good game. A goofy romp with your friends is something I can gel with, so I'm not upset with this direction per se, but it is worth mentioning for those who are expecting something a little more like Three Houses was a few years back. While Fire Emblem Engage is certainly a new game, it does have a whole lot of callbacks and references and fan service for longtime fans of the series. Obviously, the emblem rings of the protagonists of past games is clear, but there have been a fair amount of little details that are a little hard to notice, but a lot of fun to discover. I don't want to list them all out, because I do think they are fun to find on your own, but they can be something as small as the naming of a skill as a nod to a game title, to special effects of some weapons referencing to how they worked in their original games. Another fun aspect of the game that draws from the series' rich history is the bond ring mechanic. Similar to the emblem rings, bond rings are equipped and add to your stats and can even give some skills. They are lesser than the emblem rings, and you can't interact with the characters, but there is room for a lot more characters using this method. Now they're basically just JPEGs acquired from a gacha mechanic, but there are short little one-line descriptions of the characters, which was nice to see. I'm not a big gacha guy, but these are completely optional and easily ignored if you want to mess with it. The last thing I want to mention is I was very happy to see the Amiibo Gazebo can give access to some music from past games when you wander around Somnia. It looks like it may just be one track per game, but I'm happy to scan my bio with Amiibo every time I can to unlock another classic tune. So in short, my first day playing Engage has been a whole lot of fun, and I'm excited to see what comes next for the rest of the game. I thought it would be neat to end this video with a quick look at the Divine Edition I was fortunate enough to get. Alright, so I've got here the Divine Edition. This is the box. It's a nice box. It's got lots of nice artwork on the front, lots of different characters. It's not a smooth surface. It's got some texture here on the front. Pretty cool stuff. Let's see. Inside the box, we had an art book, which I have not had a chance to really look through yet. I don't like to look through these art books until I get closer to the end of the game, because sometimes there's some, I guess, later game characters or areas I might not want to spoil myself on, so gonna keep this closed for the time being. But nice book. Looks like it's, let's see how many pages there are. Only 200 pages, so good stuff there. Got the steelbook, which is nice. Got some changing colors here, and the standard version, pretty much the same thing, just not the steelbook. Got a poster here that I have not opened yet. I don't know if I will open. I gotta find a good spot for it, but it's like more artwork that probably looks similar to that's on the big box. And this last thing, I think might be my favorite. It's these cards for the different emblem characters. I think this is really neat. See here. Basically, we have the character, the character. We have each of the emblem rings on with the character they represent on here. So we have Marth, and it's the artwork from, I guess, their most recent game. So we have Marth, we have Celica, Sigurd. It's funny, all the genealogy stuff is like the most outdated artwork in the game, because Fire Emblem 4 is the oldest game to not have a remake, so they're still using the original, 90s artwork. We got Leaf. Roy's our boy. Lynn. Erica and Ephraim. We like Ike and his Path of Radiance look. That's who's representing. And we got Micaiah. She's the Radiant Dawn representative. Lucina. Corin. And Byleth. So yeah, these are really neat. I really like these. I don't know what I want to do with them. I think they're probably just going to go back in their box for the time being. But if I could find a good way to display them, I would like to. But yeah, pretty cool Divine Edition. I was happy with it. There's an extra $40 for the art book, poster, steelbook, and these cards. So, I mean, it is what it is. I like what I got out of it, but that's about all I have here. So, thanks for watching. I want to do a review of the game down the line. I'll probably just expand on my thoughts of this video. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.